The medical station floated in the quiet darkness of space, its silver walls gleaming under the light of distant stars. Inside, alarms blared as a damaged human ship approached. The crew had barely survived an asteroid collision, and now they were hurt, scared, and desperate. A group of alien doctors rushed to the docking bay. Their leader, Dr. Vera, raised a long, thin hand. "Prepare for emergency surgery," she ordered. "We have life forms that require immediate attention." As the bay doors opened, stretcher after stretcher rolled inside. Human bodies, burned and bleeding, were brought in. The aliens had never treated this species before. They had seen humans on their scanners, yes, but never so close. Never like this. Dr. Rin, the youngest medic, frowned. "Their bodies are strange. Skin is thin, almost fragile. How can they survive in the wild?" "Focus," Vera said, sharply. "Life signs are dropping. Let's save them first, ask questions later." In the sterile white of the operating room, surgical tools hummed to life. The first human was placed under bright lights. He groaned weakly, barely conscious. Vera looked at her team. "Scalpel," she commanded. Rin hesitated. "Are we sure about this? We don't know their biology." "We have no choice," Vera replied. "If we delay, he dies." The blade touched the human's skin, and a thin line of red appeared. The alien doctors froze. What is that?" Rin whispered, her voice trembling. The liquid shimmered under the lights, brighter than any blood they had seen. It pulsed, as if alive, reflecting strange patterns on the walls. An acrid smell filled the air, sharp and metallic dot. Dr. Kor, the oldest among them, stumbled back. "Close the wound. Close it now." Vera stared, unable to move. "Why? What's happening?" Kor's voice shook. "It's true. The legends were true. This is the Red Curse." Alarms shrieked as the blood dripped onto the metal table. The surgical instruments sparked violently, some shattering in midair. The floor under the table sizzled, leaving a smoking black scar. "Contain it," Vera shouted, but it was too late. The room's monitors blinked and died, screens cracking as the power surged. The medical AI screamed warnings in a dozen languages. "Containment breach. Hazardous biological energy detected." Rin staggered back, her eyes wide. "It's just blood." "How can blood do this?" "No," Kor said, trembling. "Not just blood. Living energy. The kind that destroyed half the galaxy ages ago." The human groaned again, his eyes fluttering open. Where am I?" he muttered. "Don't move," Vera ordered. But he tried to sit up, and another drop of blood fell from his arm. The surgical table shook violently, energy dancing across its surface. The walls flickered, as if the station itself was in pain. Pressed a hand to her translator. "Doctor, the other humans, should we save them?" "Quarantine," Vera barked. "Seal all bays. Nobody leaves. Not the humans, not us." Outside the operating room, panicked voices filled the corridors. News of the cursed blood spread. Quickly, medical staff abandoned their posts, running for safety. Security teams arrived, armed with heavy plasma rifles. They aimed at the humans, fear in their glowing eyes. One of the guards whispered, "I've heard of this. Red-blooded demons. They destroyed the ancients. Why are we helping them?" "Because they're alive," Vera said coldly. "And we are doctors." Inside the room, Kor pulled Vera aside. "You don't understand. If this blood leaves containment, it could power fleets, weapons, even stars. Entire empires will come for them." Vera hesitated, torn between duty and fear. "So, what are you suggesting? Kill them, I'm saying," Kor whispered. "That we decide quickly, before the council hears of this." Meanwhile, the human on the table looked around, fear and confusion in his eyes. "What? What are you saying? What's wrong with me?" Vera forced a calm tone. "You're injured. We're trying to help." The man shook his head. "No, I heard you. Cursed blood. What are you talking about?" She couldn't answer. Another alarm blared. Louder this time, the station's power grid was destabilizing. Every system showed warnings of critical overload. Rin tapped a console. "Doctor, his blood, it's reacting with the station. It's feeding on the energy. The more contact, the worse it gets." "Then we move him to isolation," Vera commanded. Security guards blocked the doorway. Negative orders from command. The humans are to be detained and studied. No one leaves until we understand the threat. The human clenched his fists. You're afraid of me, he said slowly. Why? Vera hesitated. Because your blood is unlike anything we've ever seen. Before anyone could react, the man swung his legs off the table. Trying to stand, pain shot through him, and more blood fell to the floor. The lights above exploded in a shower of sparks, plunging the room into chaos. Security fired stun bolts, but the shots ricocheted off an invisible shield of energy. Stop! Vera shouted. You'll only make it worse. Kor turned to Vera, his voice low and urgent. Do you see now? This is why they were hunted. To extinction, this blood is a weapon. A living weapon. The human stumbled, holding his wounded arm. I don't want to hurt anyone, he whispered, but the room around him continued to tremble. Rin's eyes darted between the man and the searing scars his blood left behind. Doctor, what do we do? Vera took a deep breath, her mind racing. We find out the truth, she said. Before the entire galaxy finds out first, but outside the sealed doors, the truth was already spreading. The isolation chamber vibrated with a low hum as the human was wheeled inside. Thick energy shields surrounded the room, glowing faintly blue. Dr. Vera watched from behind the glass wall, her hands clasped tightly. Vitals are unstable, Rin reported, her voice tight. His body is in shock. We can't keep him sedated much longer. Keep trying, Vera said. We need time to understand what we're dealing with. Inside the chamber, the human stirred. His name, they had learned, was Daniel Hayes. He blinked against the harsh lights, trying to focus on the figures beyond the barrier. Fear flickered in his eyes. Where am I? He whispered. His words, translated through the CUM system, carried a tremor. You're safe, Vera answered, though she wasn't sure it was true. You were injured. We're treating you. Daniel shook his head. Safe. I heard your people outside. They're scared of me. Scared of my blood. Rin swallowed hard. Subject's biological output exceeding containment. Thresholds. Daniel winced as pain shot through his arm. A fresh drop of blood fell to the floor, and the energy barrier flared violently, waves of light rippling across its surface. Dr. Rin said, panic edging her voice, the shields. Can't hold if he keeps bleeding. Seal all secondary layers, Vera ordered. Divert power from non-essential systems. The lights in the corridor dimmed as more energy was fed into the containment chamber. But even as the shield strengthened, Daniel's blood continued to pulse with unnatural life, pressing against its prison like a living storm in the command center. High-ranking station officials argued in harsh tones. Do you realize what you've done? Vera faced him calmly. He's not a weapon. He's a patient. Red-blooded species brought ruin wherever they went. We will not make the same mistake. Kor, standing in the shadows, nodded grimly. I agree with the commander. We should end this before it spreads. Rin's voice wavered. End it? You mean kill him? Tal's eyes glowed a cold yellow. If necessary, Vera felt a chill run through her. You can't execute a man because of fear and legends. He doesn't even understand what's happening to him. Kor leaned forward. Doctor, you saw what his blood did? That energy could power our largest warships for centuries. If word gets out, entire empires will come to claim it. Do you want a war on your hands? Vera hesitated, her mind torn between medical ethics and the growing danger. I want the truth, she said finally. We can't destroy what we don't understand. Meanwhile, inside the isolation chamber, Daniel paced restlessly. Every movement sent pain shooting through his body. He pressed his hand against the wound, feeling warmth seep through his fingers. He didn't understand why these aliens feared his blood so much, but the terror in their eyes was real. A soft hiss sounded behind him. A hidden panel slid open, and a figure stepped inside, small, with pale green skin and wide, frightened eyes. They're talking about killing you. Daniel's heart pounded. Killing me? Why? What did I do? Your blood. It's dangerous. To them, to everything. They call it the Red Curse. They say it destroyed entire civilizations long ago. Daniel backed away. I don't understand. I'm just human. My blood's normal. Not to us, Rin said. It reacts with our technology, with our very air. We can't control it. He clenched his fists. Then let me go. I'll leave your station, disappear. I didn't ask for this. They won't let you, Rin said quietly. Commander Tal wants to hand you over to the High Council. Others want to kill you first to make sure no one else ever learns what you are. Daniel's gaze hardened. And you? What do you want? Rin hesitated. I think you're not a threat, but if you stay here, they'll destroy you. I can help you escape, but you have to trust me. Daniel looked into her wide, uncertain eyes and saw genuine Ferrand, a spark of hope. All right, he said finally. Help me. In the corridor outside, Vera finished her meeting with Tal and Kor. She returned to the observation deck, expecting to find Daniel resting. Instead, alarms blared, containment breach detected, isolation chamber, integrity compromised. Vera's heart lurched. What happened? Security footage flickered on a screen, showing Rin leading Daniel. Through a maintenance hatch, the human was bleeding heavily, his crimson trail burning through metal grates. Seal the section. Tal roared over the comms. Don't let them escape. Vera stared at the footage, torn between duty and instinct. Rin was her responsibility, a brilliant young doctor who had trusted her guidance, and Daniel, he was her patient. She slammed, her hand on the console. No, she barked. Lower the stun fields in Section C. If you activate them while he's bleeding, the entire deck will go critical. Tal's voice crackled back. I don't care. They must be stopped. Rin. And Daniel ran through the twisting corridors, alarms wailing around them. Daniel stumbled, leaving smoking footprints where his blood touched the floor. The docking bay is ahead. Behind them, security. Teams closed in, weapons drawn. One alien fired a stun bolt, and the shot grazed Daniel's arm. He cried out as the energy discharge triggered another reaction. Sparks erupted in all directions, shorting out the corridor lights. The pursuing guards shielded their eyes, stumbling in the sudden darkness. Go, Rin urged, pulling him forward. They rounded a corner and came face to face with Commander Tal. His massive frame blocked the passage. Plasma rifle aimed directly at Daniel. This ends now, Tal snarled. Step aside, Rin. No, she said, surprising herself with the firmness in her voice. He's not our enemy. Tal's finger tightened on the trigger. You have no idea what that blood can do. If he escapes, billions could die. Daniel's, I just want to live. Living isn't an option, Tal growled. Before he could fire, Daniel staggered, his wound reopening. Blood splattered onto the floor, and the corridor exploded in a surge of energy. Tal was thrown back, his rifle clattering away. The walls buckled, lights bursting in a cascade of sparks. Run, Rin shouted, dragging Daniel through the smoke. On the command deck, Vera watched the chaos unfold. Kor turned to her, his face pale. He's going to bring down the station, Kor said. We have to jettison that entire section. I won't let fear decide who lives and dies. She turned to the companel. Alhandel, Rin, and Daniel stumbled into the bay. Alarms blaring overhead, a small medical shuttle waited, its engines powered up. Rin helped Daniel inside, his body trembling from blood loss. Strap in, she said. We're leaving. The docking doors began to close as Tal's voice roared over the intercom. All units, stop that shuttle. Do not let it leave. Vera's voice cut in calm, but firm. Override authorization. Vera, Sigma 7. Release Base 7 immediately. The heavy doors groaned open, revealing the endless darkness of space. The shuttle lifted off, engines flaring as it shot forward. Daniel slumped in his seat, eyes half closed. Thank you, he murmured. But they're not going to stop chasing us, are they? Rin met Vera's gaze on the comscreen. No? His voice was low and deadly. Send word to the High Council, he ordered. Tell them the Red Curse lives. The shuttle sped through the dark void of space, engines humming softly. Inside, Daniel sat slumped in his seat, his face pale. Every heartbeat made his wound throb, and each drop of his blood that seeped through the bandages glowed faintly, casting eerie light across the cabin. Rin tightened the straps around his arm, her hands trembling. We're losing too much, she said quietly. I can't stop it. Daniel forced a weak smile. Don't worry about me. Just get us away from that station. She glanced at the controls. We're on autopilot, heading for a safe zone. But they'll come after us. Commander Tal won't let this go. Daniel leaned back, closing his eyes. Why? Why does my blood scare them so much? Rin hesitated. Because it isn't just blood. To them, it's a weapon. They call it the Red Curse. Long ago, they say a species with blood like yours nearly destroyed the galaxy. Daniel opened his eyes, a flicker of anger in his gaze. I'm not a weapon, I know, Rin said. But fear doesn't listen to reason. Far behind them, on the damaged station, Commander Tal stood before a holoscreen, his voice sharp. Dispatch all intercept units, he ordered. Priority Alpha, the human must not reach Earth. Core, watching from the shadows, frowned. You're going to start a galactic hunt over one man? Tal's gaze hardened. Not one man, a source of limitless energy. Do you know what happens if Earth realizes what they have? Empires will rise and fall overnight. Core crossed his arms. And if the Council finds out you lost him? They won't, Tal said grimly. I'll bring him back, dead or alive. Back in the shuttle, Daniel stirred, his breathing ragged. Where are we going? Rin hesitated. A neutral zone, an old medical outpost off the grid. We can stabilize you there. Off the grid? Daniel gave a weak laugh. Sounds like we're fugitives. We are Rin. Admitted, your blood makes you the most hunted being in the galaxy right now. Daniel's expression darkened. So what happens when they find out Earth is full of people like me? Rin looked away. Then the galaxy burns. A sudden alarm blared. Rin's head snapped to the scanner display. They found us, she whispered. 2 interceptors, closing fast. Daniel struggled upright. Can we outrun them? Not for long, Rin said. We're slower, and we can't risk using the hyperdrive here. Blood keeps interfering with the systems. The shuttle shuddered as enemy fire grazed the hull. Sparks rained from an overhead panel. They're warning shots, Rin muttered. Next time, they won't miss. Daniel gritted his teeth. Then, let me help. You can barely stand, she said sharply. Maybe, but if my blood is as dangerous as they think. He held up his bandaged arm, the faint red glow seeping. Through maybe, it can buy us some time. Rin stared at him, horrified. You want to use it as a weapon? I don't want to, Daniel said. But if it's between us and them. Another blast rocked the shuttle. Rin bit her lip, then reached for the emergency controls. Fine, there's a vent port in the rear. If your blood really reacts with their tech, maybe it'll give us an opening. Daniel staggered to the back of the shuttle, tearing away the bandage. Pain lanced through him, but he pressed his bleeding arm against the vent port. A thin mist of crimson dispersed into the vacuum of space, glowing like liquid fire. Moments later, the pursuing ships swerved violently. Their shields flickered, systems crackling as the mist made contact. One interceptor erupted in a ball of blue flame. The other veered off course, vanishing from the scanner. Rin stared in stunned silence. You just destroyed them. Daniel sank to the floor, his body trembling. I didn't mean to. I only wanted to scare them. Rin knelt beside him, wrapping his arm again. You didn't just scare them. You proved the legends true. On the station, Tal received the report, his expression grim. The interceptors are gone, the officer said. Destroyed by the human. Tal's eyes narrowed. So it's true. His blood really is a weapon. Core stepped forward, his voice low. If word spreads, the Council will hunt every human alive. Do you understand what's coming? Tal clenched his fists. Then we make sure the Council hears it from us first. Prepare a transmission. Tell them the Red Curse has returned and it's heading for Earth. Back aboard the shuttle, Daniel drifted in and out of consciousness. Memories surfaced Earth, his family, the crash that had brought him here. He whispered, I just want to go home. Rin adjusted the course. We'll get you there, but once we do, you'll never be safe again. Daniel forced his eyes open. Then teach me. If my blood is this dangerous, I need to control it. I can't keep hurting people. Rin hesitated. There are stories of the ancients who once carried blood like yours. They learned to shape it to wield it without destruction. But the knowledge is forbidden. Anyone caught practicing it is executed. Then we find it, Daniel said, because if I don't, they'll use me to start a war. Hours later, the shuttle approached a dark, barren moon. Hidden in its shadows lay an ancient medical outpost, long abandoned. Rin guided the ship into a concealed hangar, the heavy doors sealing shut behind them. "This place is off the charts," Rin explained as they disembarked. "No one should find us here." Daniel looked around the dimly lit corridors. "Feels dead. It's safe," she insisted. For now, as Rin set up a makeshift medbay, Daniel explored the outpost. In a dusty chamber, he found strange markings etched into the wall, symbols that pulsed faintly when he touched them. A sudden warmth spread through his body, and for a moment the pain in his wound faded. "Rin," he called, "come look at this." She joined him, her eyes widening. "These are ancient sigils. From the time of the red-blooded, no one has seen these in thousands of years." "What do they mean?" Daniel asked. "They tell a story," Rin whispered, tracing the lines with her fingers, "of a people who could turn their own lifeblood into energy, shaping it into tools, weapons, even life itself. They were feared and hunted until they vanished." Daniel stared at his glowing bandage. "So this is what I am." Rin met his gaze. "Maybe. But if others find out, they'll never stop hunting you." A faint beep interrupted them. Rin hurried to a nearby console. "They've traced us," she whispered. "Tal's forces are inbound. We have minutes." Daniel clenched his fists. "Then we fight." Rin shook her head. "We can't win against them. We have to run." "No," Daniel said firmly. "I'm done running. If I don't stand now, they'll hunt me forever. Then they'll find Earth." The outpost shook as the first blasts from enemy ships struck its surface. Dust rained from the ceiling. Rin grabbed Daniel's arm. "Then we make our stand here," she said. Together, as the enemy closed in, Daniel felt the warmth of his blood surge, stronger than ever. For the first time, he didn't fear it. He embraced it, and the walls around them began to glow. The outpost shook under another volley of plasma fire. Sirens wailed through the empty halls as dust rained from the cracked ceiling. Rin grabbed Daniel's hand, pulling him behind a collapsed doorway. "They're breaking through the outer wall," she shouted over the noise. Daniel's chest burned, every heartbeat pumping the strange warmth of his blood through his body. For the first time, he didn't feel weak. Instead, power throbbed in his veins, humming like a living storm. Looked down at his bandaged arm where crimson light leaked through the cloth. "I can feel it," he said, his voice low. "My blood. It wants out." Rin's eyes widened. "No. If it spreads," another explosion rocked the structure, cutting her off. The blast doors at the far end of the corridor buckled, glowing, reed from the heat of enemy cutters. "They're coming," Daniel whispered. "We don't have a choice." He ripped away the bandage. The glowing blood pulsed against his skin, bright enough to light the dark corridor. A drop fell to the floor, sizzling through metal like acid. Rin shielded her face from the searing light. "Daniel, stop." But he ignored her, focusing on the strange warmth inside. He imagined pushing it outward, shaping it. The glow and suddenly, a barrier of swirling red energy sprang up around them, just as the blast doors gave way. Tal's soldiers stormed in, rifles blazing. Plasma bolts struck the barrier and ricocheted wildly, filling the hall with blinding light. The soldiers stumbled back in shock. "What is that?" one of them shouted. Daniel stood, the red aura flickering around him. "I don't know," he said through clenched teeth, "but I think it's me." From the command ship above the moon, Commander Tal watched the feed from the soldiers' helmet cameras. His jaw tightened. "He's manifesting control over the red curse," Tal growled. "Pulled the first wave back. Deploy heavy containment units." One of his officers hesitated. "Sir, if he gains full control, he won't," Tal snapped. "I'll deal with him myself." Inside the outpost, Daniel struggled to hold the barrier. His vision blurred, and his body trembled under the strain. "I can't keep this up." Rin grabbed his arm. "Then we run. This way." They sprinted deeper into the outpost, the sounds of pursuing soldiers echoing behind them. Every step Daniel took left glowing red footprints that hissed against the metal floor. "Where are we going?" he panted. "To the reactor core," Rin replied. "If we can overload it, the blast might destroy their ships or at least give us a chance to escape." Daniel stumbled. "You want to blow up the whole outpost? They'll take you otherwise," she said. "We can't let that happen." They reached the reactor chamber, vast circular room filled with towering machinery. The old systems hummed faintly, barely active after centuries of abandonment. Rin rushed to the controls, her fingers flying across the dusty console. "I can set it to overload," she said. "But we'll have minutes to get out before it blows." Daniel leaned against the wall, breathing heavily. "And if they catch us before then," she glanced at his glowing arm, "then we fight." Outside, Tal led the second wave of soldiers into the outpost. The commander's armor gleamed under the harsh lights, and his plasma rifle hummed with lethal power. Tal ordered, "Kill the other, if necessary." As they moved through the corridors, one soldier pointed to the scorched floor. "His blood, it's everywhere, sir. The readings are off the charts." Tal's eyes narrowed. "He's losing control." "Good. That means he's vulnerable." Back in the reactor chamber, Rin slammed the last sequence into the console. Warning lights flared across the room, and the ancient machinery roared to life. "It's set," she said, turning to Daniel. "We've got 3 minutes." Before they could move, the blast doors exploded inward. Tal and his soldiers poured into the chamber, weapons raised. "End of the line," Human Tal said coldly. "Surrender, and I'll make it quick." Daniel stepped forward, the red glow spilling from his wounds. "I'm not your prisoner." Tal raised his rifle. "You don't have a choice." The soldiers opened fire. Daniel threw up his hands, and a wave of crimson energy burst outward, swallowing the plasma bolts. The air crackled with power, and the walls shook from the force. Rin ducked behind a console. "Daniel, we have to go now." Tal charged through the energy storm, his armor shielding him. He swung his rifle like a club, striking Daniel across the chest. Daniel staggered back, his blood splattering across the floor end, the reactor. Ancient machinery screamed as the blood sank into its systems, feeding it unnatural energy. Red lightning arced across the chamber. Rin's eyes widened. "Daniel, what did you do?" I can't control it," Daniel gasped. "The reactors." Overload accelerated, alarms blaring. Tal realized what was happening and turned to his troops. "Fall back. Evacuate now." But Daniel stood firm, his body surrounded by a swirling storm of crimson light. He locked eyes with Tal. "You wanted the red curse," Daniel said, his voice echoing unnaturally. "Now you've got it." A wave of energy erupted from him, hurling Tal and his soldiers out of the chamber. The blast tore through the corridors, ripping apart walls and ceilings. Rin grabbed Daniel's arm. "We have to leave." He met her gaze, his expression haunted. "Go, I'll hold it off." "I'm not leaving you," she shouted. They ran through the collapsing outpost, explosions tearing the structure apart. Debris rained down around them as they reached the hangar. Rin shoved Daniel into the shuttle and sprinted to the controls. "Strap in," she yelled, hitting the ignition. The shuttle roared to life, blasting free of the crumbling outpost. Just as a massive explosion consumed the moon, a shockwave of red energy rippled through space, scattering Tal's ships like leaves in a storm. In the aftermath, Tal's flagship drifted, its systems crippled. The commander slammed his fist against the console. "He's stronger than we thought," Tal snarled, "and he's learning to control it." Kor's voice came through the comm, grim and certain. "Then the hunt has only begun. And when the Council hears of this, they will unleash the full might of the fleets." Aboard the shuttle, Daniel sat in silence, staring at his trembling hands. The glow had faded, but the memory of the power remained. Rin placed a hand on his shoulder. "You saved us." "I nearly destroyed everything," Daniel whispered. "I don't even know what I am anymore." "You're human," Rin said softly. "And right now, that might be the most dangerous thing in the galaxy." Daniel looked out at the endless stars. Somewhere out there was Earth's home. But now he knew the truth. The galaxy would never let him return in peace. He clenched his fists, determination hardening his gaze. "Then I'll make them understand. I'm not their weapon." Rin nodded slowly. "And if they refuse?" Daniel's eyes glowed faintly red in the dark. "Then I'll show them what happens when they push a human too far." The shuttle drifted through the darkness, its engines quiet, its lights dimmed to avoid detection. Daniel sat near the viewport, watching the stars blur past. His arm was wrapped in fresh bandages, but the crimson glow still pulsed faintly beneath. Moved quietly between the control panels, checking the scanners again and again. No sign of pursuit, she said, though her voice carried no relief. But that won't last. Tal's fleet will regroup, and when the Council joins the hunt, Daniel turned from the stars. They'll come for Earth. She nodded, her expression tight. They'll come for all of you. Billions of humans, every one of them carrying what they call the Red Curse. Daniel's fists clenched. We have to warn them, Rin hesitated. If you do, the galaxy will descend on your world. Armies, scavengers, scientists, they'll all come to harvest your blood. Earth will burn. Daniel looked down at his trembling hands. Then what's the alternative? Keep running until they catch us. There might be another way, Rin said slowly. The legends speak of an order. Those who once mastered the power in their blood, they called themselves the Crimson Order. Daniel raised an eyebrow. You think they can help me control this? If they still exist, Rin replied. The Order vanished thousands of years ago. Most believe they were wiped out. Daniel's gaze hardened. Then we find them. Because if I don't learn control, the galaxy will never stop hunting me. Far away, aboard his damaged flagship, Commander Tal stood before a massive holoscreen, the image of the High Council flickering before him. Dozens of alien faces stared down, their voices a chorus of outrage. You lost him. One of the counselors hissed. A human with the Red Curse escaped your custody. Tal bowed his head, not for long. We've traced their trajectory. He seeks the remnants of the Crimson Order. Murmurs rippled through the council. Another voice spoke colder and more deliberate. If he finds them, he will learn to control the curse. That cannot be allowed. Tal straightened. I will bring him back, dead or alive. See that you do, the council replied as one, or the hunt will pass to others, and your failure will be corrected. Back aboard the shuttle, Daniel sat with Rin at the navigation console. She pulled up a star map, its holographic display filling the cabin with soft blue light. The Crimson Order's last known stronghold was on Kalen Prime, she explained. A dead world, abandoned after the Purge. If any of them survived, they'd be there. Daniel studied the map. How far? 3 jumps, Rin said. But every jump risks drawing pursuit. Daniel nodded. Then we don't stop. Ours. Later, the shuttle dropped out of hyperspace above Kalen Prime. The planet below was a wasteland of blackened stone and frozen seas. Ancient structures jutted from the surface like the bones of some long-dead giant. Rin guided the shuttle into a crumbling hangar. As the engines powered down, Daniel took a deep breath. Feels empty. Not empty, Rin murmured. Just waiting. They disembarked, their footsteps echoing in the hollow structure. Strange carvings covered the walls, glowing faintly as Daniel passed. He reached out to touch one, and warmth surged through his body, answering the symbol's glow. React to you, Rin whispered. Just like the outpost. Daniel frowned. Does that mean they're guiding us? Maybe, she said. Or maybe they're warning us. Deeper inside, they found a massive chamber lined with ancient statues. At its center stood a pedestal, holding a dark, crystalline sphere. Daniel approached slowly, the glow in his bandages, intensifying with each step as he reached for the sphere. A voice echoed through the chamber, not in sound, but in his mind. Blood of the lost, heir of the red line. Why have you come? Daniel froze. Who are you? The voice was calm, ancient. We are the memory of the Crimson Order, bound to this place. Few of our blood remain. Why do you seek us? I need to control this, Daniel said aloud, holding up his glowing arm. My blood, it's killing everything around me. They call it a curse. A curse only to those who fear its power. The voice replied, to us, it was life, creation, and destruction in one. Do you wish to learn control? Yes, Daniel said firmly. Then you must choose, the voice intoned. To master the blood is to accept what it is. Power that feeds on the self. Once awakened, it cannot be undone. Daniel hesitated. If I don't, the galaxy will come for my people. They'll burn Earth to the ground. Then the choice is made, the voice said. Prepare yourself. The sphere pulsed with crimson light, and Daniel felt a searing pain race through his veins. He collapsed to his knees, gasping. The glow in his blood spread, engulfing his entire body in red fire. Rin rushed forward. Daniel, stay back, he gasped. I have to control it. The voice filled the chamber again. Focus. The blood obeys will. It is not a curse. It is you. Command it, or be consumed. Daniel clenched his fists, forcing the energy to still. Slowly, the wild storm around him coalesced into a steady glow. He rose shakily to his feet, the crimson light dancing harmlessly along his skin. Rin stared in awe. You did it. Daniel flexed his fingers, the power humming beneath. His control, I can feel it, like a part of me I never knew was there. But the moment of triumph was short-lived. The chamber's walls trembled as a new voice echoed through the air, harsh and metallic. Found you. Tal strode into the hall, flanked by armored soldiers. His rifle was leveled at Daniel, but his gaze was fixed on the glowing red lines. Tracing Daniel's skin, you've learned to control it, Tal said darkly. Good. That means when I take you, the council will have exactly what they want. Daniel stepped forward, the crimson aura flaring. You're not taking me anywhere, Tal smiled coldly. We'll see. Blaster fire erupted, filling the chamber with streaks of blue energy. Daniel raised his hand, and a wall of crimson light absorbed the bolts, scattering them harmlessly. With a thought, he sent the energy surging outward, knocking Tal's soldiers. To the ground, Tal charged through the chaos, swinging his rifle like a blade. Daniel caught the weapon in one glowing hand and wrenched it aside. You should have left me alone, Daniel said, his voice low. Tal twisted free, his armored fist slamming into Daniel's chest. Pain flared, and Daniel staggered back. The commander's voice was cold and triumphant. You're not ready. The blood still controls you. Daniel's eyes blazed red. Then, let's finish this. The ground shook as their powers clashed, crimson energy against armored strength. Statues toppled, and the ancient chamber began to collapse. Rin grabbed Daniel's arm. We have to go now. Daniel hesitated, then pushed Tal back with a surge of power. The commander crashed into a crumbling wall as Daniel and Rin sprinted for the exit. They reached the shuttle just as the temple collapsed behind them, burying Tal and his soldiers in a storm of stone and dust as they lifted. Off, Rin glanced at Daniel. Do you think he's dead? Daniel stared at the ruins below. No, Tal's too stubborn to die that easily. Rin hesitated. Then what now? Daniel looked at his hands, the faint crimson glow, steady and controlled. Now we warn Earth, and we prepare. Rin met his gaze. For what? For war, Daniel said quietly. Because they won't stop until they have my blood, and when they come for me, they'll find out exactly what a human can do. The shuttle cut through the silence of deep space, its battered hull holding together by luck and stubborn will. Daniel sat at the co-pilot's seat, staring at the glowing lines that pulsed faintly beneath his skin. He could feel the power now steady, waiting like a caged storm. Rin glanced at him from the pilot's chair. You're quiet. Daniel didn't look up. I can feel them. Still out there, hunting us. They'll never stop, Rin admitted. Not after what they saw on Kalen Prime. You've become their nightmare made real. Daniel clenched his fists. Then maybe it's time I stop running. Rin's brow furrowed. What are you saying? I need to go home, Daniel said. Earth has to know what's coming. Rin hesitated. If we go to Earth, we'll lead them straight there. Tal, the council, bounty hunters, they'll all descend on your world. Daniel's voice was steady. Then I'll be there too. Stop them. Far behind them, aboard a heavily damaged cruiser. Commander Tal stood in a darkened war room, his armor scorched from their last battle. He faced a trio of High Council envoys projected in shimmering light. You failed to retrieve him, one envoy said coldly. The human grows stronger. Tal's jaw tightened. I underestimated him. That will not happen again. Another envoy leaned forward, eyes gleaming. The red curse has awakened. If he reaches Earth, billions more like him will rise. Do you grasp the threat? I do, Tal growled, which is why I'll burn that world to ash if I must. The lead envoy's voice was a whisper of steel. Do not fail us again, Commander. Deploy the hunters. Spare no resources. Bring us the human dead or alive. As the shuttle approached the Sol system, Daniel pressed a hand against the viewport. The familiar blue-green marble of Earth filled the glass, and a knot tightened in his chest. Home, he whispered. Rin studied him carefully. You sure about this? Once we make contact, Your people will be targets." "They're already targets," Daniel said. "They just don't know it yet." They landed in a remote desert outpost in Nevada, far from cities and satellites. Daniel stepped onto the dusty ground, inhaling the air of his homeworld. For a moment, memories of his life before everything his family. His friends flooded back. Rin scanned the horizon with a handheld device. "No immediate threats, but that won't last." "Tal will track your blood here," Daniel nodded. "Then we need allies, people who can help defend Earth." "Who?" Rin asked. "Your planet isn't ready for what's coming." "They'll have to be," Daniel said grimly. That night, Daniel contacted an old friend, Colonel Marcus Hale, a trusted figure in Earth's secret defense network. They met inside a hidden bunker beneath the desert. Marcus stared at Daniel, disbelief on his face. "You vanish for months, and when you come back, you're glowing red and telling me aliens want to kill us all." Daniel pulled back his sleeve, revealing the faintly pulsing lines in his arm. "This isn't a joke, Marcus. They're coming. For me, and if they find out about Earth, they'll come for everyone." Marcus rubbed his temples. "You're saying the entire galaxy wants your blood." "They think it's a weapon," Daniel said, "and if they can't have it, they'll destroy the source, Earth." Marcus turned to Rin. "And you? Who exactly are you?" Rin met his gaze. Marcus exhaled slowly. "All right, suppose I believe you. What's your plan?" "We prepare," Daniel said. "We get ready for a war Earth doesn't even know is coming." Far above the planet, Tal's fleet arrived in the system, cloaked against detection. In the command chamber, Tal stood before a tactical display of Earth. "So, this is the human homeworld," he said softly. "Beautiful, but fragile." One of his officers approached. "Orders, Commander." Tal's eyes glowed with cold fire. "We begin the purge. Target the human first. Once he's gone, the rest will fall." In the bunker, Daniel trained relentlessly, pushing himself to understand his newfound control. He learned to summon the crimson energy at will, shaping it into shields and blasts of focused power. Each attempt left him drained, but he improved. With every session, Rin monitored his vitals, concern etched on her face. "You're burning through your own life force," she warned. "Every use costs you." Daniel wiped sweat from his brow. "Then I'll pay the price if it means keeping them safe." Marcus approached, carrying a tablet filled with intelligence reports. "We've picked up unusual activity in orbit. Military satellites are detecting disturbances." Daniel's gaze hardened. "Tal's here." Hours later, the first strike came. A series of brilliant streaks lit the night sky as alien hunter craft entered the atmosphere. Entire cities were thrown into chaos as cloaked vessels attacked military installations. Searching for their quarry, Daniel and Rin raced outside, crimson light already flaring along Daniel's skin. "They found us," Rin said. Daniel's voice was calm, almost cold. "Then, let's show them what they came for." The first wave of hunters descended on the desert outpost. Plasma fire tore through the ground as Daniel raised a wall of crimson energy, deflecting the blasts. He sent a surge of power forward, tearing one of the alien craft from the sky in a storm of red lightning. Marcus shouted over the comms, "They're targeting you. We can't hold them off." Daniel stepped forward, eyes blazing. "Then they'll have to get through me." The air around him shimmered as the crimson aura expanded, scattering enemy fire like leaves in a storm. One by one, the hunter craft fell, consumed by the storm of living energy. Aboard his command ship, Tal watched the battle unfold, his expression unreadable. "He's stronger than before," he admitted. "Good. The stronger he becomes, the greater the prize. Should we deploy the second wave?" an officer asked. "Not yet," Tal said. "I want to see how far the red curse has awakened." On the ground, Daniel stood amid the wreckage, chest heaving. The desert was littered with burning ships, the night sky alive with fire. Rin approached, her face pale. "You can't keep doing this. Every time you use the power, it's killing you." Daniel met her gaze, determination burning in his crimson-tinged eyes. "Then I'll die on my feet, because if they take me, Earth dies with me." Above them, dozens more alien signatures appeared on Earth's radar. Rin stared at the readings in horror. This was just the first wave. The real attack hasn't even begun. Daniel turned to the horizon, where the stars burned like 1,000 watching eyes. "Then we fight," he said quietly, "and we make them regret ever coming here." The night sky over Earth burned with streaks of light. Dozens of alien warships descended through the atmosphere, their hulls glinting like knives in the moonlight. Cities below erupted in panics. Sirens wailed, buildings trembled, and the world watched in terror as the invasion began. Daniel stood on a ridge overlooking the desert base, his crimson aura flickering like a living flame. Rin approached, holding a communicator to her ear. "Global defense is collapsing," she said grimly. "The Council's forces are hitting every major military site at once. They're not just after you anymore. This is an extermination." Daniel's gaze hardened. "Then we make our stand here. If they want me, they'll have to come through every defense Earth has." Colonel Marcus Hale strode up, his voice clipped and urgent. "I've mobilized every rapid response unit we have, but they're not ready for this. We've got fighter squadrons engaging in orbit, but they're outmatched. We're talking about tech centuries ahead of ours." Daniel flexed his hands, the crimson glow brightening. "Then I'll be the difference." Far above the battlefield, aboard his flagship, Commander Tal watched the unfolding chaos. "Deploy the Reavers," he ordered coldly. "I want the human brought to me alive." A soldier hesitated. "Commander, the Reavers are unstable." Tal's gaze was hard as ice. "So is he. Release them." Moments later, the first of the Reavers arrived towering, cybernetic monstrosities bred for war. Their armored forms crashed into the desert in plumes of dust, each one armed with energy blades that crackled hungrily. Red sensors flared as they locked onto Daniel. Rin's breath caught. "What are those?" Daniel took a step forward, his aura brightening. "Something they think can stop me." The nearest Reaver lunged, its blade slicing through the air. Daniel raised his arm, catching the strike on a wall of crimson energy. Sparks and red light clashed, the force rattling the ground. With a twist of his hand, Daniel redirected the energy, sending the creature tumbling through the air. But two more were already on him. The desert became a battlefield of light and fire. Daniel ducked beneath one Reaver's blade, his own blood force, energy lashing out like a whip. The weapon cut through steel and circuitry, felling the creature in a shower of sparks. Another struck from behind, its blade grazing Daniel's shoulder. Pain flared, and with it, his power surged uncontrollably. A wave of crimson energy erupted outward, tearing through the Reavers and leaving molten scars in the earth. Daniel fell to one knee, breathing hard, his aura flickering violently. Ran to his side. "You're pushing too far. You'll burn yourself out." Daniel gritted his teeth. "If I stop, we all die." High above, Tal watched with cold fascination. "He's growing stronger with every fight," he murmured. "Good. The Council will tremble when I deliver him. Should we strike now?" Commander and officer asked. "Not yet," Tal replied. "Let the Reavers wear him down. Then I'll take what's mine." At the base, Marcus coordinated the defense, his voice a steady command over the comms. "Fall back to secondary. Lines keep the civilians moving." Explosions rocked the ground as alien assault craft strafed the area. Rin dragged Daniel behind a wrecked vehicle, her eyes searching his. "You can't keep this up. There are too many." Daniel's crimson glow dimmed, but his eyes burned with determination. "Then we changed the rules." He extended his hands, focusing on the storm within. Slowly, the crimson energy spread outward, forming a dome that covered the entire base. Enemy fire struck the barrier and dissipated harmlessly. Inside, soldiers stared in awe. Marcus's voice crackled over the comm. "What the hell, Daniel? That's incredible." "Not for long," Daniel said, sweat running down his face. "This takes everything I have." Outside the barrier, Tal frowned. "A shield large enough to cover an entire base," he mused. "His control is improving faster than expected." "Should we bring down the shield?" an officer asked. "No," Tal said, a thin smile curving his lips. "We'll overload it. Prepare the orbital cannon." Back within the shield, Rin monitored Daniel's vitals. "You can't sustain this," she warned. "When the shield collapses, they'll strike." "With everything?" Daniel nodded weakly. "Then we hit them first." Marcus approached, his face set. "We've got a strike team ready to move. If you can punch a hole in that blockade, will take the fight to their command ship. Daniel opened his eyes, the crimson light flaring. Then let's give you that opening. With a roar of energy, Daniel focused the barrier into a single beam, punching a path through the enemy fleet above. Marcus's strike team launched in a volley of fighters, streaking through the gap toward Tal's flagship. But the victory was short-lived. A blinding light filled the sky as the orbital cannon fired. The crimson shield shattered, the resulting shockwave hurling Daniel and Rin to the ground. Tal's voice echoed across the comms, cold and triumphant. The shield is down. Commence full assault. Alien forces poured into the base, overwhelming Earth's defenders. Daniel rose, blood dripping from his wounds, his aura flaring once more. "I'm not done," he growled. He unleashed a storm of crimson energy, tearing through the invaders in a desperate bid to hold the line. Rin fought at his side, her medical tools turned into makeshift weapons, while Marcus rallied what remained of his troops. Still, the tide turned against them. For every enemy that fell, more arrived, their numbers endless. At last, the ground trembled under a new arrival. A massive drop pod slammed into the earth, its doors hissing open. Tal stepped out, his armor gleaming, his presence radiating command. "All this destruction," Tal said, his voice carrying over the battlefield, "and still you resist. Impressive, but futile." Daniel faced him, crimson energy coiling around his form. "This ends tonight." Tal smiled coldly. "Yes, one way or another." The two charged, crimson energy clashing against armored might. Shockwaves rippled across the battlefield, scattering soldiers from both sides. Each strike from Tal's weapon met Daniel's blood-forged defenses, sparks and red light filling the air. Rin watched from the sidelines, fear tightening her chest. He's pushing himself too far. If this continues, his blood will consume him. The duel raged across the burning desert. Daniel struck with all his strength, but Tal's armor absorbed the blows. With a brutal swing, Tal knocked Daniel to the ground, his blade poised for the killing strike. "You can't win," Tal said, his voice cold and sure. "The red curse isn't yours to command." Daniel's eyes flared bright crimson. "Then maybe it commands me." With a roar, he unleashed a pulse of pure energy, hurling Tal backward in a storm of red lightning. The commander crashed into a crater, his armor sparking, breathing hard. Daniel staggered to his feet, crimson light swirling uncontrollably around him. "This isn't over," he whispered. High above, Tal's fleet regrouped, preparing for another strike. And somewhere in the shadows, the High Council watched, their interest in the battle growing ever sharper. Rin rushed to Daniel's side, helping him stand. "You can't keep doing this," she said urgently. "You're killing yourself." Daniel met her gaze, his voice steady despite the exhaustion. "Then we finish it. Because if I fall, Earth falls with me." The desert battlefield was scorched and broken, the air filled with the acrid smell of burned metal. Daniel stood in the center of the chaos, his crimson aura flickering like an untamed fire. His breaths came in ragged gasps, but his eyes still burned with fierce resolve. Around him, the last of Earth's defenders regrouped, battered but alive. Rin knelt beside him, her scanner worry as it read his vitals. "You can't keep going like this, Daniel," she warned. "Every time you draw on the power, it burns through your life. You're at your limit." Daniel wiped blood from the corner of his mouth, his gaze fixed on the smoke rising from the crater where Tal had fallen. "I don't have a choice. As long as Tal lives, they won't stop." Colonel Marcus Hale approached, helmet under his arm, his face lined with exhaustion. "Intel confirms what we feared. Tal's fleet is rearming in orbit. He's not retreating, he's preparing to launch an all-out strike. If that happens, Earth is finished." Daniel straightened slowly, wincing at the pain that flared in his ribs. "Then I'll finish this before he does." High above Earth, Tal stood in the command chamber of his flagship, his armor scorched, and his expression carved from cold fury. Its officers kept their distance. The red glow of the commander's cracked helmet reflected the madness in his eyes. "The human grows stronger with each battle," one officer reported. Even the Reavers fell to him. Tal's lips curved into a grim smile. "Good, let him burn brighter. The hotter the flame, the more spectacular the fall. Another officer approached cautiously. "Commander, the Council demands results. They've authorized direct intervention." At that, Tal's expression hardened. "They think to take my prize. No, I will bring the human down myself." Night fell over the desert, but the darkness brought no peace. The survivors of the battle gathered around makeshift fortifications, their faces lit by the dull glow of fires. Daniel sat apart from the others, his crimson aura casting faint shadows on the sand. Rin approached quietly, her expression torn between worry and determination. "You're pushing yourself to the edge," she said, kneeling beside him. "The blood is changing you. How long before you lose control completely?" Daniel met her gaze. "I can feel it trying to take over. The more I use it, the louder it gets. But if I stop, everyone dies." Rin reached out, resting a hand on his arm. "There has to be another way." Daniel shook his head. "Not anymore. This ends with Tal." Before dawn, a sharp alarm pierced the camp. Marcus rushed toward them, his face grim. Long-range sensors just picked up something bigger than Tal's fleet. "It's the Council." Rin stiffened. "The High Council? They're sending ships here themselves." Marcus nodded. "Looks like it, dozens of capital-class vessels. If they deploy their full strength, Earth won't stand a chance." Daniel stood, the crimson light brightening around him. "Then I have to end this before they arrive." As the first rays of dawn broke across the horizon, Tal descended to the battlefield, his armor repaired and his blade gleaming with a dark, hungry light. Around him, the ground scorched with every step, the power of his suit fully unleashed. "Human?" Tal called, his voice echoing through the still air. "This ends now. No more running, no more hiding." Daniel stepped forward, the desert wind whipping around him, his crimson aura pulsing in time with his heartbeat. "You're right," he said quietly. "It ends here." They clashed in an explosion of light and force. Each strike from Tal's blade met Daniel's crimson energy, the impacts shattering stone and sending shockwaves across the desert. Soldiers on both sides were thrown to the ground, shielding their eyes from the blinding exchange. "You can't win," Tal roared, driving Daniel back with a flurry of strikes. "The red curse was never meant for you." Daniel gritted his teeth, channeling the storm within him. "Maybe not," he growled, "but it's mine now." He unleashed a surge of energy that sent Tal skidding across the battlefield. The commander's armor smoked, but he rose again, unshaken. "Good," Tal said, his voice a low growl. "Show me more." Above them, the first of the Council's ships entered orbit, their massive forms blotting out the stars. From there, command chamber, the counselors observed the duel with cold detachment. "He's stronger than we anticipated," one murmured. "The red curse is fully awakened in him." "Then we proceed," another said. "Prepare the containment protocol. If Tal fails, we will claim the human ourselves." On the ground, Daniel's body screamed in protest with every movement. But the power still flowed, hotter and wilder with each moment. He could feel the edges of his consciousness fraying, the crimson energy whispering promises of unstoppable strength he would only let go. Rin's voice cut through the haze, shouting from the sidelines. "Daniel, don't lose yourself." Her words anchored him, pulling him back from the brink. He steadied his breathing, forcing the energy to bend to his will. "I'm still me," he whispered. "I have to be." Tal charged, his blade arcing in a lethal strike. Daniel caught it with a wall of crimson energy, the force sending cracks spiderwebbing through the ground. With a twist, he shattered the blade, fragments of dark metal scattering like shards of night. Tal staggered back, shock flashing across his scarred face. Impossible. Daniel advanced, the crimson light flaring around him like a second sun. "It's over, Tal." With one final surge, he unleashed a torrent of energy that engulfed the commander. When the light faded, Tal lay motionless, his armor shattered, his body scorched beyond recognition. For a moment, silence fell over the battlefield. Then the sky darkened as the Council's fleet descended, their massive ships blotting out the sun. Rin ran to Daniel, her face pale. "Did it? But it's not over. They're here." Daniel looked up at the looming armada, his crimson aura still burning, though faintly. "Then we fight again." Marcus approached, his voice grim. "Fight. Against that. We don't stand a chance." Daniel turned to him, his eyes glowing with quiet resolve. "We don't have to win. We just have to survive." High above, the Council deployed their containment units, vast mechanical constructs designed to capture even the most powerful red curse. They descended toward the battlefield like a storm of steel and light. Daniel's aura flared brighter, the storm within him answering the threat. "They want me," he said softly. "Then let them come." Rin gripped his arm. "Daniel, if they take you, they won't," he said, his voice a promise. The first of the containment units touched down, its colossal form towering over the battlefield. Energy fields crackled to life, ensnaring everything within their reach. Daniel stepped forward, crimson light building around him, and faced the oncoming storm. "For Earth," he whispered, "for everyone." With a roar that shook the heavens, Daniel unleashed the full power of the red curse, crimson light flooding the battlefield as the Council's machines closed in. The battlefield was drowned in light. Crimson energy erupted from Daniel like a tidal wave, colliding with the shimmering cages of the Council's containment units. Metal screamed and twisted as the constructs strained to hold him their fields, crackling under the force of his power. Inside the storm, Daniel's thoughts blurred. Every nerve burned as the red curse flooded through him, whispering promises of limitless strength. For a terrifying moment, he almost let go. "Give in," the voice inside hissed. "Become what you were meant to be." "No," Daniel gasped, forcing the energy under control. "Not yet. I'm still me." The first containment unit collapsed, its limbs snapping like brittle twigs. Crimson energy surged outward, throwing soldiers and wreckage into the air. Rin shielded her eyes as the blast washed over the battlefield. "Daniel," she shouted through the deafening roar, "you have to stop. You're killing yourself." But Daniel didn't stop. He couldn't. More units descended from the sky, their mechanical claws carving deep into the desert. Energy fields layered one over another, trying to pin him down. From above, the High Council watched their massive fleet circling like predators. "He resists our strongest units," one counselor murmured, their voice a mixture of awe and fear. "The curse grows unstable." Another said, "If he loses control, the entire planet will burn." Within the storm, Daniel fell to one knee, sweat stinging his eyes. He could feel the power consuming him, burning through his veins like liquid fire. Images flashed in his mind cities. On Earth engulfed in crimson flames, people screaming. Rin's face twisted in horror. No, not them. He forced himself to stand, summoning every ounce of willpower. The crimson aura narrowed, focusing into tight streams of energy that lashed out at the containment units, slicing through their power core one by one. Rin ran to his side as the last machine exploded. "Daniel, you have to get out of here. More are coming." He shook his head, his glowing eyes fixed on the sky. "No, this ends here." On the flagship, the Council prepared their final move. A massive chamber deep within the ship pulsed with alien light. At its center hung an ancient crystal, black veins of energy snaking through its surface. "Activate the core resonator," the lead counselor commanded. "But the risk, do it. The human's blood must be reclaimed. The curse belongs to us." As the resonator powered up, Daniel felt it a deep, pulling sensation, like invisible chains wrapping around his chest. The crimson energy within him roared in answer, surging. "Against the pull, they're trying to take it," he growled. Rin grabbed his arm, fear in her eyes. "Take what?" "My blood," Daniel said, his voice tight. "They're trying to rip it out of me." The ground split open as another wave of containment units surrounded them, this time reinforced with energy anchors driven deep into the earth. Daniel fought back, but with each strike, the pull from the sky grew stronger. Marcus's voice crackled over the comms, urgent and panicked. "Daniel, whatever they're doing, it's tearing through our systems. We're losing power across the grid." Daniel gritted his teeth, crimson energy flaring. "Then we end this now." He launched himself skyward, leaving a trail of red fire in his wake. The Council's fleet loomed above, their weapons turning toward him. Daniel plowed through the first wave of defenses, crimson blasts tearing through armored hulls like paper. On the flagship, the counselors watched in mounting alarm. "He's coming here," one whispered. "Prepare the resonator," the leader snapped. "He cannot reach us alive." Daniel crashed through the flagship's hull, landing in the resonator chamber. The air hummed with dark energy, and at the center floated the black-veined crystal, pulsing in rhythm with the power in his veins. So, this is it, Daniel thought. The source of the curse. The council's voices filled the chamber, echoing from all directions. "You carry our greatest weapon. Return it, and we will spare your world." Daniel glared up at the crystal. "You're lying. This power was never yours. It was stolen. Stolen." The voices thundered. "We created it." The crystal pulsed, and in that instant, Daniel understood. The red curse hadn't been created, it had been born. It was the life force of an entire civilization, harvested and bound by the council ages ago. His blood was a remnant of those people, a legacy twisted into a weapon. "You murdered them," Daniel whispered. "They were a failed experiment," the council replied coldly. "You are the culmination of their design. Surrender the power, and perhaps your world will be spared." Daniel reached for the crystal crimson energy surging around his hand. "No, this ends with me." With a roar, he drew the energy of the curse into himself, the crystal shattering in a burst of blinding red light. The backlash tore through the flagship, sending shockwaves rippling through the entire fleet. On Earth, people watched in awe as the council's ships faltered, their systems failing under the wave of crimson energy. Daniel collapsed to one knee, the remains of the crystal crumbling around him. Every cell in his body burned, but the power was his fully and completely for the first time. The council's voices shrieked in fury. "You fool! Do you know what you've done?" Daniel rose unsteadily, crimson light blazing from his eyes. "Yes, I set them free." Outside, the council's fleet began to disintegrate, their power sources collapsing without the crystal. On the ground, Rin and Marcus watched in stunned silence as the sky lit up with falling wreckage. "He did it," Rin whispered. "He actually did it, but victory came at a cost." Daniel staggered through the wreckage of the flagship, his body failing under the strain. Each step felt heavier, the crimson energy threatening to tear him apart from within. Rin's voice came through the cum, desperate. "Daniel, get out of there. The ship's going to blow." Daniel looked down at his glowing hands, feeling the weight of what he had become. "Not yet," he whispered. "There's one more thing I have to do." High above Earth, the last fragments of the council's power burned out. But in the shadows of the wreckage, a single escape pod shot away, carrying the surviving counselors and their furiant to the depths of space. On the desert below, the people of Earth looked to the sky, unsure if they had truly survived or only won a brief reprieve. Deep within the ruined flagship, Daniel stumbled into a control chamber, his crimson light illuminating row upon row of stasis pods, each one holding a flickering image of a long-dead face. The ancestors of the Red Curse preserved like ghosts. "I freed you," Daniel said softly. "Now help me finish this." The pods dissolved into motes of crimson light streaming into him. The energy steadied, no longer a storm, but a river. Flowing where he willed it, he turned toward the exit, determination hardening in his gaze. Earth was safe for now. But the council still lived, and they would return with more fury than ever. Daniel's voice was a vow, quiet but unbreakable. "Next time, I'll be ready." The wreckage of the council's fleet burned in Earth's upper atmosphere, streaks of crimson and silver falling like dying stars. For a moment, the world held its breath. Across cities and towns, people stared at the sky, unsure if they had just witnessed salvation or the prelude to something far worse, far below. In the Nevada desert, Rin and Marcus watched the burning heavens from the battered command post. Static crackled through the cums as the last alien signals faded. "It over?" Marcus asked quietly. Rin shook her head, her gaze fixed on the horizon. "No, not yet." Daniel's still up there. On the ruined flagship, Daniel staggered through the collapsing corridors, each step echoing with the groan of tearing metal. His body trembled, the crimson energy barely contained beneath his skin. Every heartbeat felt like an explosion. "You've taken too much," a faint voice whispered inside him. "You can't hold it forever." "I can," Daniel muttered, forcing himself onward. "I have to." Ahead, An escape hatch yawned open. With the last of his strength, Daniel launched himself into the void, his crimson aura flaring as the flagship erupted behind him in a sun-bright explosion. He fell through Earth's atmosphere like a meteor, streaking red against the blue sky, and crashed into the desert in a thunderous shockwave that sent sand and rock spraying for miles. Rin reached him first, skidding to her knees beside his still form. His breathing was shallow, his skin almost translucent, the crimson glow dim but steady. "Daniel, stay with me," she urged, pressing her hands to his chest. "Don't you dare give up now." His eyes fluttered open, faintly glowing. "Rin, it's over, for now." Marcus arrived, his face grim. "Medical team's on the way. Can you move him?" Rin shook her head. "No, moving him could kill him. The power inside him is unstable." Hours passed as Daniel lay unconscious. In the bunker's medical bay, monitors traced the erratic rhythm of his pulse, each spike flashing crimson. Rin never left his side, her mind racing with what she had seen aboard the flagship, the crystal, the stasis pods, the terrible truth of the Red Curse. When Daniel finally stirred, his voice was a rasp. "How long?" "2 days," Rin said. Softly, "You burned through almost everything. Your body is still repairing itself." Daniel turned his head toward her, his eyes dim but clear. "And the council?" "Gone," Marcus said from the doorway. "Their fleet's in ruins. But we intercepted a transmission. Some of them escaped." Daniel closed his eyes. Then it's not over. In the days that followed, Earth celebrated its survival. News outlets broadcast images of the destroyed alien fleet, calling it a miracle. Few knew the truth that their salvation rested in the blood of one man, and that the enemy had only been delayed. Daniel spent his recovery in isolation, training to control the crimson power now fully bonded to him. Under Rin's guidance, he learned to shape it with precision rather than brute force. Each success brought him closer to mastery, but also deeper into the weight of what he had become. "This power isn't just yours anymore," Rin reminded him one evening as they stood beneath the desert stars. "It carries the echoes of everyone the Council destroyed. That's why it answers to you." Daniel stared at his glowing hands. "Then I'll carry them with me. All of them." Meanwhile, Marcus coordinated global defenses, aware that Earth's brief reprieve would not last. "They'll be back," he warned during a strategy meeting. "And next time, they won't underestimate us." World leaders argued over how to prepare, but Marcus knew the truth. Without Daniel, Earth wouldn't stand a chance. One night, Daniel awoke from a dream so vivid it left him breathless. In it, he saw a distant starfield, a new armada gathering. In the void, thousands of ships, more powerful than any before. At their center was a figure cloaked in shadow, eyes burning with the same crimson light that now filled his own. He rose, moving to the viewport where Rin already stood, staring at the horizon. "You felt it too," he said quietly. She nodded. "The Council's not finished, and whoever's leading them now, they're different, stronger." Daniel clenched his fists, the crimson aura flickering around him. "Then we have to be ready." Weeks later, Daniel, Rin, and Marcus stood together on a high ridge overlooking a new training ground, an alliance of Earth's best soldiers, scientists and engineers, all preparing for the inevitable return. "They look to you now," Marcus said quietly, "a symbol, a weapon, a warning." Daniel's gaze swept over the men and women below. "I'm not a symbol," he said. "I'm just the first line of defense." Rin glanced at him, her voice soft but steady. "And maybe the last." As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the desert, Daniel felt the weight of the Red Curse settle in his veins. It no longer burned like an untamed fire. It pulsed like a living heart, steady and strong. "You are not alone," the whispers inside him murmured. "We are with you." Daniel allowed himself a small, grim smile. "Then let's make them regret ever coming here." He turned to Rin and Marcus. "When they return, we won't just survive. We'll make sure the Council never threatens another world." That night, far across the galaxy, the surviving counselors gathered in the depths of a new stronghold. At their center stood the shadowed figure from Daniel's vision, the air around them pulsing with a dark crimson light. "Prepare the Ascendant Fleet," the figure commanded. "The human has taken what is ours. We will reclaim it and burn his world to ash." On Earth, Daniel watched the stars from the edge of the desert, crimson light reflecting in his eyes. He didn't know when the next battle would come, only that it was inevitable. But this time, he would be ready.